Welcome back to Easily Explained, where today we will be talking about the sentence. So let's get started. So we're going to be talking about what specifically can be called a sentence and what is actually a fragment. And we will build a basic understanding of what the sentence is so that in future videos we will be able to go over different parts of the sentence. So, what is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. But what do I mean by complete thought? How can we define a complete thought? A complete thought is a group of words that includes a subject and a verb. So we've already gone over what a verb is in previous videos. So make sure to go rewatch that video if you don't know what a verb is or how we can find a verb in a sentence. But we haven't gone over subject, which we will go over more in the next video. But let's just briefly touch on what it is so it's easier to understand the definition of a complete sentence. So, when we talk about subject, this is referring to who or what is the sentence about? Or if we think about it in a different way, who or what is performing the action or the verb? Alright, so if we are just erasing the middle stuff, a sentence is a group of words that tells what the sentence is about and has an action, or that tells who is performing the action and what the action is. Alright, now let's talk about some examples. So I will put a couple different groups of words on the screen and we're going to work out together. Is it a sentence or not a sentence? So the first one, Joe ran to the car. So, based on our definition that we concluded, a sentence has a verb. So let's first try to identify a verb. An action word. We have one right here. Ran is an action word, so we can consider it a verb. Alright, so we have a verb, but we also need a subject. Let's identify a potential subject, if there's any. We talked about how a subject tells what or who is performing that verb. So who is running? Joe is running. And if we look at it with the other definition of subject, it's telling who the sentence is about. Who ran to the car? Joe ran to the car. Alright, so we have found both a subject and a verb. So that means that we can conclude that, yes, this is a sentence. Alright, let's take a look at example 2. We're going to do the exact same thing. Alright, so this word group, let's try to find our verb first. Okay, so thought quietly in the corner. Alright, so the verb is just thought because that is an action. To think. Alright, now let's identify and see, does this sentence have a subject? Who is thinking quietly in the corner? Or what is thinking quietly in the corner? We don't know. It is not given. If we were to say or to ask, who or what is the sentence about? It's not about the corner. It's not about a thought or quietly or in or the. We don't know what the sentence is about because there is no subject. And since there's no subject, that means that this is not a sentence. Alright, so the example that we looked at right now is called a sentence fragment. So a fragment is a word group that it might look like a sentence. It might be capitalized or punctuated, but it doesn't have both a subject and a verb. So it doesn't express a complete thought, because if we look at thinking quietly in the corner, that's not a complete thought because we don't know who is thinking quietly in the corner. There's no subject. All right. So that was the fragment. But one thing to remember in fragments is that sometimes there's an understood subject. Like it's not said specifically. For example, if we said, "Stop that right now." All right. Let's do the same thing where we identify the subject and the verb. Okay, so verb is stop. We don't have a subject. We don't know who is stopping. But it's understood from the way this is phrased that the subject is you. Like, I'm talking to somebody, therefore I'm saying, "Stop that right now." So I'm talking about the person I'm talking to, which is you. It's a very general term. So you is the understood subject here, even though we don't say, "You stop that right now," because that would be a little bit awkward sounding. And sometimes, like in everyday conversations, we wouldn't say something like this. So in these cases, this is still a sentence. It is not a fragment because the subject is understood and then there's a verb. So now for practice, we are identifying whether the group of words is a sentence or a fragment. And if you decide, oh, this is not a sentence, it doesn't express a complete thought, it's a fragment, then identify what is it missing? Is it missing the subject or is it missing the verb? Pause the video now and complete the practice. Okay, first one. Mary jumped on the trampoline. All right, we're going to start with our verb because it's the easiest thing to identify. It's the action. Jumped. We have a verb. Now we have to look for a subject. Who is jumping? Or who jumped? Mary jumped. Mary is our subject. So we have both a subject and a verb. Therefore, this is a sentence. It's a complete sentence. It has a subject and a verb. It expresses a complete thought and everything is fine. All right. Second, was working the entire day. Okay. Starting from verb again, was working. Remember that this is also a verb because it's a helping verb. But who was working the entire day? We don't know. It's not stated. We don't have both parts of a complete sentence. Fragment. Sentence fragment to be more exact, but that's wrong. We can't just say was working the entire day because we don't know who was working the entire day and it's not understood or anything. Next, after you are finished. Okay, so start with the verb. Technically, we don't actually have a specific verb in this case because this is more of a phrase in the beginning of a sentence. Like after you are finished, for example, let's just try to add on and see what we're missing. Do the dishes. All right. So if we look at it now we can see that doing the dishes would be our actual verb. It wouldn't be finished. That's why this one is a little confusing. So yes, it might have a subject, but it still doesn't have a verb. Even though you might have thought that finished was a verb, you can also kind of tell that no matter what, this is a fragment. It just stands alone. It's not expressing a complete thought. After you are finished. After you're finished what? So, fragment. So, it's a fragment. Interrupting the video right here to tell you one quick note. You might have thought that it was okay to use something like the word group in the last problem of the practice because you've used it in everyday conversations. Like you might have asked your mom, "Oh, when should I do this?" And she responded, "After you're done," or "After you're finished." While it's okay to use fragments in everyday conversations or dialogue, we don't use it in formal writing. So that's why we still don't consider it a full sentence, even though you might have used it before. Alright, now back to the video. Alright, last. Please don't ever do that again. So, our verb, do or don't ever do, that is our entire phrase, but please don't ever do that again. Alright, in this case, you is our understood subject. Again, I am talking to somebody. I'm telling them, please don't ever do that again. So it's inferred that I am talking to you. So this is correct. It's actually a sentence. Congratulations! You are now an expert at the sentence and the sentence fragment. We hope this video really helped, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!